JHK here for Sportskeeda, and join me from Las Vegas is UFC welterweight Ramiz Brahimaj. Ramiz, thank you, man, so much for the time. You are one busy man. You're always everywhere, all over the place. How you doing?
Pretty good, brother. How you feeling?
Good, good, man. Las Vegas, you're there. You're cornering your teammate. You've been doing that a lot the last 10 months since your last fight. How has it been cornering guys, training with guys, helping guys with their preparations? How much have you grown doing that?
I think it's been an exponential amount of growth, right? Because not only am I only focused on myself, but I also get a different point of view, right? So you
Mhm.
get a coaching point of view, and you get the point of view where you're helping your teammate get ready, and it's just a lot of things that factor into it, right? So I've enjoyed it a lot. Of course, I got that itch. I'm just so ready to fight for myself. But I definitely feel that a lot of growth has occurred just from cornering, let alone sparring. And, it's a different thing when you're in camp, but when you're also helping somebody else in camp and then you're cornering them, it's like you get the full, you go full circle.
Well, when you corner someone, the cameras are on you between rounds. Does that ever get into your head a little bit? Like, man, I can't say nothing crazy because it's on camera.
Yeah, man. They tell us that backstage. They're like, "Hey guys, let's keep it G-rated, right? We're on national television." So, I
Yeah.
mean, you definitely. I've been in the heat of the moment a few times, and I've slipped up. So, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that I'm a saint, right?
Yeah. Well, the emotions run high, man. You hear it in the voices of the corners, and you gotta love it, man. You gotta love the corners putting in all they can to get their fighter to perform the way they should.
And it takes that sometimes, right? So you'll see a lot of corners. Some guys they need that. They need that fire lit underneath their ass, and it's normal, right? Some dudes are just self motivated, but of course you never know when a fight is right down the middle, right? And somebody just needs that motivation, that pep talk, and then right then and there they once they hear that it just gives them like a second win, and then they pull the rabbit out the hat, they get the win, and they do so sometimes decisively. Sometimes they go out there and they land a one punch knockout or they land a crazy combination. So, I mean, you have great fighters, but sometimes a great fighter only becomes greater whenever he has a great coaching staff behind him.
No doubt. Now, leading up to your UFC debut, we spoke and we talked about the multiple medical scares, you know what I mean? And also you had some opponent changes too. When you look back at that and what you went through and what was the emotional drain like, especially how your UFC debut ended?
Man, it was crazy, but you know, I I realized I was like, man, it's just everything happens for a reason, right? It's as unfortunate as it was. It grew my love and appreciation for the sport so much more. You know what I mean? And it gave me a different kind of hunger. I guess that's the best way to describe it, right? Not sounding too cliche. I've always been hungry my entire career, but I just feel a different kind of hunger going into this fight, and I'm just super excited and uh, not anxious, right? I'm calm. I'm in a great headspace, and I felt great in my UFC debut too, leading up to everything that happened in the third round. But like I said, I mean, it gave me a different outlook, right? So even with training now, I just I don't know. It's like I've fallen in love all over again with just going to the gym training. Sometimes you get caught up in your own head when you're going to the gym. You're like, oh man, I got to do rounds. I got to do this. Oh. You just sometimes you dread things that you shouldn't be dreading, right? And as I said before, with my orbital tumor removal, with my ear in my last fight, man, these things it's like some people that get pushed away, that get deterred, but for me, it's just drawn me in closer to fighting, and it's drawn me in closer to become an even better fighter, especially for the UFC.
How much did you grow in that 12 minutes in your UFC debut? Because that was a fight that it was pretty close until the doctor basically stopped it.
Tremendously, it's a very great question that you ask, because a lot of people they just look at the outcome, right? And that's something that I've learned, especially as I've grown as a fighter. You can't always look at the outcome. You have to actually watch the fight. You have to see how the fight was going, and if it was a competitive fight, if it was a shutout. And because some dudes, they could be getting shut out completely, then they land the one punch knockout, or they land a devastating they land a devastating punch, stun somebody, they take them down, they submit them, right? So you just have to look at the competitiveness of the fight. So I've grown so much, right? To go see even Max himself, I congratulate him on his streak that he's on. But to go see him do what he's done, take out Keenan Song the way he did, and then do what he did to Carlos Condit is very good, and it showed me that, me coming in there after a year plus layoff and going toe to toe with this dude who's been in close fights himself, right? Some of those losses that he's had have been extremely controversial. You know what I mean? Thiago Alves, just to name one. The fight with Cowboy Oliveira. This guy, he's been put through the grind ever since he's gotten to the UFC. So for me to get in there and go up against somebody who I believe is top 20, top 25 max competition, it means a lot to me, but it's not enough. For me, it's not enough. It's never going to be enough until I get to where I want to get to, right? I can't just sit here and tell you, hey, I'm so glad that I was doing good in that fight. It's what I expect out of myself. I expect to win every transition, every punch, every kick, every minute of the fight, so in the sense of me going out there and competing against somebody like that, of course I'm happy, but with the result, I'm not happy about the result, because I didn't win, so to me it's just one of those things it adds fuel to my fire.
For sure. And the ear, man, I know you got it treated that night. What was the recovery like? Did you have to, how long did you stay away from the gym because of the ear?
So, for me, I probably was away from contact for about 3 months, 2 to 3 roughly. It was definitely hard, man. It was, I could have went back to training relatively sooner. You see what I'm saying? Because the doctors, they told me, but Coach Safe, he was very adamant about making sure that everything heals the right way. You know what I mean? And it was just no rush. But of course, you definitely have to look out after yourself, right? So I had some other little minor injuries that I was taking care of as well. So it just gave me time to sit back, reflect, and really, really get my mind right for my next fight in the UFC. And not only that, but just my career in general, right? My life in general, because as I said earlier, sometimes you get caught up in that hamster wheel where you just keep going and you dread things, right? So if I would have sat back and wallowed in my sorrows and been like, oh man, I lost, I can't believe this happened to me, I would have never gotten to that point, right? So it was definitely good that I listened to my coach, and we took time off, kept away from contact, and definitely took care of that and other injuries as well, because like I said, it just gave me a brand new, fresh mindset, and I definitely feel great going into this fight.
This fight, August 21st is the date. Sasha Palatnikov is the name. He's 1-1 in the UFC. What are your thoughts on him and his style of fighting?
I really enjoy his style of fighting, right? He's a tough dude. He's a crazy Russian, Like, no offense to him, like, not to be stereotypical or nothing, but the dude he comes to fight, he's like exactly how I imagine Russians to be, They're just hard-nosed dudes. They come and they're just ready to fight you, at any point in time, in the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu and in the stand-up, everywhere. So I really do admire his fight style, and I think it plays good into my style too, because I have a very aggressive, heavy style, go forward and just don't take a back step. That's just who I've always been, and that's how I'm going to remain.
Palatnikov, he was submitted in his last fight. You have mostly submission wins. How slick was that choke by Impa Kasanganay?
No, it was a pretty good choke. It was a good transition. It was definitely one of those things that he made that read relatively quick in that transition, and he caught it. I don't know how many finishes Impa has, but for him to find that finish in the second round like that was pretty impressive.
10 months have passed almost since your debut. You mentioned, we talked about it earlier, about cornering and helping guys out. But other than that, like, what other tweaks did you make to your training to where, you head into this fight a little bit better than you did your last fight?
I would say more so just really making sure that every day that I'm in the training camp, I'm constantly improving, and not just, I used to just more or less think about the fight, right? Think about getting to the fight and think about, oh, I got to do this, instead of really just breaking down every single day and seeing where I got better, like today, than I was, like, let's say last Thursday or last Tuesday, right? And my improvements, right? So I've been journaling a lot of that stuff as well. So I definitely think more or less that little cerebral approach to not only the fight, but to training as well, because the thing is, for me, I've always wanted to get better at everything I do, right? It's my competitive nature. It's exactly why I fight. I want to compete against the best, but also not compete against the best, but also in self-improvement, right? Continue to make myself a better fighter. So I've been definitely documenting and journaling all of that stuff, and seeing how training has been going, and how I can maximize my training sessions day by day.
Is there a psychological effect to that too? The confidence is building slowly, but
Yeah,
surely.
100%. Because sometimes, like I said earlier, you get caught up in that training camp, and then you're like, oh, my weight's going down. I'm good. I'm good. Instead of really looking at it and saying, okay, so last Tuesday I had rounds. How did I do in those rounds last Tuesday compared to this Tuesday? Did I implement my game plan this Tuesday? If I didn't implement my game plan, how did I make those adjustments, those reads, everything like that? So for me, it definitely, I definitely see a lot of improvement and mental clarity when I do stuff like that, right? Because you're taking a more you take a more calculated approach to training and to your craft, right? So you take it more seriously, and in turn, when you do stuff like that, you make those little tweaks, those little improvements. They're gonna show in your all-around game.
Seems like everything's moving forward, and the gears are grinding. What do you expect? You mentioned Palatnikov. He's a guy that marches forward. You like to march forward. What is the expectations out of yourself in this fight? Do you see yourself striking with a striker, or is it take it to the ground and try to take that neck as soon as possible?
Man, I'm never a desperate person, right? I go wherever the fight goes, and as I showed in my last fight, as I've showed it in fights in the regional circuit, of course I have submission wins, but that doesn't mean that I'm scared of standing up with people, I have some of the best strikers in my gym, with Jeff Neal. I get to strike with Jeff, with Morono, with Alonzo Menafield, all of these guys, just countless names. And that's the thing that I like to look at, right? Not only is it self improvement, but I'm a mixed martial artist. You see what I'm saying? I'm not just coming into the UFC just as a world champ, or just as a grappler, or just as a wrestler, or just as this. No, man, I'm a complete mixed martial artist. So I feel comfortable anywhere the fight goes. If we have to stand up, we're gonna stand up. If we have to go to the ground, we're gonna go to the ground. If I have to make it a no-gi jiu-jitsu match to get the win, it's exactly what I'm going to do. If I have to stand in there in the pocket sling, if I have to counter strike, if I have to do whatever, I'm ready to do it.
I think in your first fight, a lot of people were watching that and saying like, Ramiz, why is he not going to the ground, man? Like, because they'll look at your record, they just see all the submissions, right? So
Yeah,
a lot of fans are confused, I think. But I think
of
what you were talking about, you want to test yourself in different areas in the fight. You
course.
don't want to just focus on one area.
No, definitely not. And of course, I should have made adjustments, could have, should have, would have. But all in all, like I said, I think I definitely showed a lot of improvements in that fight, and I just can't wait for this fight. I just can't wait to showcase even more, than I did my last fight. I still feel like I haven't even really scratched the surface yet when it comes to my technical side, my all around fight game. I just don't feel like that. I just don't feel like I haven't even hit my prime yet.
For sure. Now, before I let you go, I wanted to hit you up on, a couple topics in the UFC. The
Let's
first
do it,
one
baby.
is the welterweight division. You know what I mean? You're a guy coming up in that division. Kamaru Usman, he's going to defend the 175-pound belt against Covington coming up soon. Usman stopped Covington in the first fight. Do you see history repeating itself in the rematch?
I think so. I do. I mean, Kamaru, man, he's coming into his own right now, right? So it's gonna be very hard to try to put a stop to that guy. Colby might be able to do it with his pace, but as we know, Kamaru has great cardio as well. Kamaru could go 25 minutes. Kamaru can go 23 minutes, stop you in 23:30, right? So the guy is just he's really all of that hard work that he went through with people ridiculing him about his 30% comment, everything, it really, to me, it looks like the guy is coming to his own. You know, he's starting to have more faith in his stand-up, as we see in his last two fights. You know, last two technically, because he did decision Jorge the first time, but I mean, that was pretty much a shutout on the scorecards too, right? The guy hasn't had many close fights. I think the last close fight was against Colby. I think it could be a close fight again, but I mean, man, it's just based off of his last two performances, it's going to be very hard to deny Kamaru stopping Colby Covington this time around again.
Do you remember the exchange that they had after Colby won his last fight against Tyron Woodley, where they were screaming at each other? Well, Covington was screaming at Kamaru, and Kamaru was just calm and cool and collected. What is your take on Covington's whole persona, the character that he plays?
I mean, it's who he is, right? That's who he wants to portray. That's who he wants to be. More power to him, right? You know, I think the world would be very boring if we had everybody just gray, just one color and one personality, bland. It would get boring after a while, right? So it's not something that I agree with for myself. I don't do stuff like that, right? But the thing is that that's the uniqueness of the world, right? You got 7.some billion people in this world. Me and my brother came out of the same womb. We're two different people, So I mean, everybody's different, right? So with that being said, I understand his shtick. It's who he wants to be. It's how he makes his money. So I'm never going to tell another man, hey, man, don't make your money, right? I don't agree with it. It's not my cup of tea, but, man, that's who he is.
Piggybacking off of that, trash talk has become a hot topic, especially with Conor, going at Dustin and his family, insulting family, religion, country. Yeah, is that going too far, man?
That's tasteless. It's classless. And I know, like I said, same thing with Colby, right? He's done that to Kamaru. He's done that to Khabib. He's done that to a bunch of people, right? I don't know if you could say it's the Conor McGregor effect. I guess. I mean, yeah, I guess so. You could call it that. But it's something I don't agree with. But like I said, it's just the route guys take, If somebody wants to be classless, that's what they're going to do. They're going to show you their true colors. I'd rather somebody show me their true colors than just be fake, and not know who they really are, So, I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, people are going to really introduce themselves to you and show you their true colors. So you can't be mad at that. You can't take it to heart. You just have to understand that, hey, maybe this person's a dirtbag piece of shit. It's just who he is.
He could be hiding behind the persona, too. You know what I mean? It's like you have a built-in excuse, maybe?
To be honest, brother, I don't know, man. It's... there are certain personas that you can pull off, right? And then when you really cross the line, I don't think it's a persona no more. I think it's what you have in your heart. Sometimes your heart speaks for you, and it's a very real thing. And as I get older, I realize it more and more. As I said, people, they really introduce themselves to you. I could lie here and start spewing some racist ass shit and some real xenophobic stuff and talk about somebody's family and be like, no, it's my persona, man. Chill. It's just how I'm trying to make my money. But behind every joke, it's a half truth, right? So some of that stuff, I mean, man, it's probably the way they feel in their heart.
Yeah, you never know, man. You never know until maybe years later when you start to really find out about people. But yeah, man, it's a very, very controversial topic. But I think we're gonna keep talking about it and keep going with it because this MMA, man, is sport.
It's not like it's 10 or 15 years ago where you could break somebody's jaw or you can catch them outside, right? Or if you guys are somewhere alone, you could beat the shit out of somebody, right? It's not like that no more, right? Now we have the camera phones, we have cameras everywhere. So, I mean, it does give people, I guess you could say, a false sense of security, right? To say some real violating shit, and it's like I said, man, it's not something that I agree with at all. Because, this is how wars were started. Realistically speaking, this is how people have died throughout centuries, right? Just over words. People have lost their life over words, And we're not even getting into money. We're not even getting into women, food, all of this other stuff. People have lost their lives over words. So, I mean, it's just a different day and age now. It's not something that I agree with, but, I mean, man, that's the way it is, unfortunately.
Did you get to watch the verses? Dipset versus the Locks?
Oh, yeah. I knew it was going to happen that way. Like, you listen, you're a hip-hop head. you just people listen. I like Dipset. I like a lot of their old stuff, but me being from the Bronx, man, I grew up listening to Jadakiss. I grew up listening to Styles P, Sheek Luch, Locks, D Block, all of that, right? You can't go bar for bar with Jada, man. He has a rap about that, you know. Literally going bar for bar with Jada is just it's like a death sentence, you know. The guy is just is a lyricist, man. So, you know, I knew that was gonna happen. Now, if we could rehash an old rivalry, I would love to watch G Unit and the Locks go after it because they had a beef a long time ago. 50 Cent and Jada and all the Yonkers over there in D Block. So I would love that. Would bring Lloyd Banks back, and Lloyd Banks is a phenomenal lyricist. So, you know, if they're doing all of this stuff, bringing those old school cats back in there like that, let's do the Locks versus G Unit, man. I would love to see that.
I love that they're bringing back all of this, man. I love that they're bringing back, because that's like the last era that I actually listened to. I still listen to now.
And you enjoy, yeah. I still listen to it and I enjoy it. Every time I listen to it, it's like it's a timeless classic. I can never get tired. You look at my Spotify, man. It's just, I think 95% of my Spotify is just old, a lot of East Coast rap, right? I got some love for the West Coast. I got a lot of love for the South as well. But man, it's just, for me, being from New York, right? I just love the East Coast rap, man. That's always been my scene.
Well, it doesn't matter, man. You're gonna be on the West Coast. You're gonna be in Vegas, August 21st.
Sure.
UFC Vegas 34. Thank you so much, man, for the time, and always love catching up.
Appreciate it, brother. See you soon. Take it easy.